From project reviews to incredible interviews, along with the general things in Web3, CraigO's Crypto Corner covers the space in a fun and engaging way. We dive in so our listeners can conceptualize, plan, strategize, and implement their very next move. We are quickly becoming a platform that enriches and supports the overall foundation of Web3. In order to grow, you need your voice to be heard. If you have infinite curiosity, then CraigO's Crypto Corner is just for you. Come join us.
You're tuning into CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. Incredible reviews and spectacular interviews and some of the best things that we cover overall in Web3. Let me bring in first our co-host, Mr. MetaMat Trades. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are we doing? I'm excited for this one.
We're going to have a great episode.
You got a crowded space today. I love it.
I know. So, it's all about the metaverse. So we're going to make it happen. We're going to have a great time, and hopefully you've got some good questions lined up. And before we get to our special guest today, let's bring in Mr. Ralph Quintero from the Daily Ralpha with our weekly Ralpha update. What's up?
GM. I think you meant to say it's all about the Futureverse. I like the sound that much better.
It is. Well, let me just say, one of the co-founders is calling from, I think it's 10 a.m. his time. And
the future for us.
The other one is 3 hours behind us. So, they're in the past, but they're catching up really quick. How are you doing?
Sounds like an episode out of Back to the Future. Doing good, brother. How are you? Good week so far. A lot of strange stuff going on in this space.
I know.
Nothing surprises me anymore. Last week we talked about aliens
being abducted. By the way, did I read on the Daily Ralpha that Sam Bankman-Fried launched a token? Is that correct?
Oh, listen, there's a lot of speculation. So over the weekend, the talk of the space was 3 meme coins, Bald, Hairy, and Based. And those were launched on Coinbase's layer 2 Bald Base. And at one point, there were some of our friends that were up like 44,000x on their investment, but then realized very quickly that they couldn't get anything out. And then the founder of the projects rugged the project. And then some awesome Twitter and internet and blockchain sleuths started going down the rabbit hole. And what they've determined, or at least speculate, is that may be behind these tokens, which would be so nothing surprises me anymore. And then there was speculation earlier this morning, and I've been in meetings all day, so I haven't followed this. But there was speculation that SBF is actually collaborating with the government to build a stronger case against Coinbase. So who knows, man? Like, nothing surprises me anymore in this space, Craig. I'm here for the ride. I'm having fun. Like we like to say, I'm here for the art. I'm here for the projects that are building, for the founders that are building and doing really cool stuff,
right.
And enjoying every minute of it.
I know. It's exciting. And so what other things do you have? And obviously I'm excited to really delve into Futureverse and how they're keeping everybody engaged. Probably 2 of their most notable digital assets, at least that caught my attention, were Fluffs and also Thingies, if I have that correct. So really excited to chat with them. But maybe we can just digress for just a moment on, I'm always here for the art. And as I'm realizing in this time of opportunity, I'm picking up low-priced art, great opportunities. And we think about Floor App, they're going to be on next week on August 9th. And I picked up the Vinny Hagar piece last week.
Good for you.
This week, I'm going to pick up something from one of the other artists. She does some really cool pieces. So
Amber Vittoria, that's later on this week.
Yeah, I love seeing women in the space. I think it's important, especially when credibility, us guys seem to really kind of mess things up. So I think seeing more amazing women in the space is really important.
Yeah, and look, the art angle, as much as we kid around about it, is something that's brought a lot of people into the space. It's something that I'm passionate about in this space. Besides everything that we're doing on Floor, I've actually been scoping out art on Wild.xyz, on Prohibition Art. Prohibition Art I actually really like because they're minting a lot of their work on the Arbitrum chain.
Yep.
So it gives me the opportunity to work cross-chain on stuff like that. And then obviously my friends at Hug, the Hug.xyz, they always feature incredible artists. We feature a lot of those in the Daily Ralpha. So at least a couple times a week, I'm looking to pick up pieces from emerging artists and pieces that I absolutely love, right? And we've talked about this in earlier episodes, and I've always said it, like, whatever you're going to buy something that you absolutely love, right? And I love that we have the co-founders Futureverse with us, because one of my favorite pieces that I would never sell is my party bear, and that's part of their ecosystem. And I have DJ Big Drop, and I love the way that my bear looks. I love the soundtrack that the bear brings, and I can't wait to see how he's going to participate and what his role is going to be in the Futureverse. So super excited about that.
I hope you have a high future score. That's what I'm hoping for you. Ralph, it's always an honor. And before we have you pop off for just a second, if we can just do a quick screen share. For those that are not, please go and subscribe to the Daily Ralpha. It is free. It's a 5-minute or less read every morning in your inbox before 8 a.m. You can't miss out. It's got the greatest information that one could possibly want when trying to make good decisions in this space. You can come off of that screen share. Thanks so much. And all right, stay in the episode a little bit. I mean, you might have some questions. You know, you're a holder in this ecosystem, and you know, I got my Future Pass last night. I was able to connect my wallet very seamlessly. So let's get to it. We are thrilled to have two highly accomplished guests in the Web3 tech, music industry, and finance space, Shara and Aaron, the co-founders of Futureverse. Shara Senderoff is a visionary technology entrepreneur and venture capitalist, featured on Forbes 30 Under 30, Rolling Stone's Future 25. As the co-founder of Futureverse, an open metaverse ecosystem, she leads the team in shaping the next version of the internet. Shara's impressive background includes co-founding Raised in Space, a blockchain venture fund and studio. Joining us alongside Shara is the other co-founder, Aaron McDonald, a technology industry veteran and serial entrepreneur. He was named Ernst & Young's Technology Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019 and recognized as one of the top 50 technology leaders by IDG. With a track record of managing portfolios exceeding 1 billion, Aaron is at the forefront of Web3 innovation. He is the founder of multiple metaverse companies, all under the powerful umbrella entity, Futureverse. Aaron's journey began with a commitment to democratize the web, leading broadband installation efforts throughout New Zealand. Together, Shara and Aaron represent the vanguard of the ever-evolving tech and entertainment landscape. Today, we will do a deep dive into exploring their insights, experiences, and transformative visions for the future. Their innovative company, Futureverse, specializes in crafting cutting-edge software that empowers individuals to create interconnected gaming applications and extraordinary experiences. Let's plot, plan, strategize, and implement our next moves in Web3. GM, Shara, and Aaron, how are you?
Good.
GM, everyone.
Yeah.
What a wind-up.
Intro. Wow. Can you come with us everywhere?
Thank you.
Your own hype host.
Yeah. You even say Futureverse. Really cool.
Thank you. All right. Well, hey, I'll take a little bit of a compliment at the beginning, but I really want to dive into this because there's probably about 20 different conversational points, and I think the first one is most important. And neither one of you can take it. What is the metaverse? Let's just start there. It's simple for those that are listening that aren't in the Futureverse, because we want to get more people in, and that's the magic.
Yeah, I think like the most important thing to understand about the metaverse is it's not a game. Like if you use this as a frame of reference, no one can build a metaverse. People out there saying, I'm building a metaverse. That doesn't exist. There's only the metaverse, and the metaverse is the collection of interoperable applications and experiences that are powered by user-owned data, identity, and content. It's as simple as that. Even more simple, it's just the internet growing up. If we think about the last kind of 20 years of the internet, we started with very simple and siloed experiences across a range of different things: commerce, banking, content, like social or communications, media, content. They're all kind of quite distinct silos. And over the last, particularly the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen those silos like start to compress. And so we see things like media and communications, which were very separate things, come together as social media, like one of the first steps of the metaverse, if you want to call it that. More recently, we're seeing things like commerce become a big part of that experience. And so now we have social commerce. There's more activity in that social commerce space and growing faster than in traditional e-commerce. And so as these experiences start to become more concentrated, you get this thing called immersive convergence, which is bringing together those silos into a more streamlined user experience on the internet. So really, it's just the internet growing up. It's a future internet economy powered by user-owned content, data, and value. And we're in it already to a certain extent. It's not something that's coming. The average person born today will spend more than 40 years of their life looking at a screen. You're in the metaverse, it exists. And so for better or worse, we have to make it a place that communities win inside of.
Right. No, I love that. And, I notice how much screen time we all have, and proactively we have to put the screens down at times, spend time with family to actually recollect our thoughts, because we do get programmed by the data in which we consume. So in part, I think there's a balance, but you have to be proactive in that. So how does AI, right? Because this is very much what you guys are in. How does AI intersect with the metaverse? How would you connect those two?
Yeah, I think like the opening gambit there, and I gave this speech up at the Morgan Stanley China Summit recently. And my first slide was, the metaverse is dead, long live AI, because people get trapped in these hype cycles, right? So it's AI is the hype, and, the metaverse is not a thing anymore. And brands are like, at least above the line are like, we're AI focused now, we're not metaverse focused. There's actually a lie compared to what's happening below the line. But they're narrative hunters in terms of brand perception. Actually, they're the same thing. If we think about the metaverse as being the digital society evolving, AI is a huge component of that. And I almost think like if we'd had some of the advances in generative AI come to market in the middle of the metaverse cycle, it would have made that hype even bigger. Because the one thing that I think let us down in that cycle was everyone intuitively got the idea of a more immersive digital world experience, but actually it's super hard to build. You needed at that time like specialist developers. They're in short supply. They became very expensive. And so it wasn't an idea that could scale. You couldn't get, your average small business participating in that metaverse experience economy because it was expensive to do. And with generative AI, now we're getting to the point where we can type worlds into existence. This is the technology that Futureverse is building. And so just like when we had Wix or those early websites, Squarespace, as website builders came along and made it easy for everyone to have a web presence, and web became an explosion of opportunity. We're getting to that point now with immersive technologies that AI is enabling that experience. And so on the one hand, it's about democratizing, creating immersive experiences, and that's a really powerful thing that AI can do. On the other hand, as we become like more and more digital citizens, there's going to be more and more digital agents that exist inside of that world. And so these agents are becoming more intelligent and they can do more things for us. And so they're both part of the same trend, and they both go hand in hand. There's no point having generative content if there's nowhere to create that content and make it valuable and useful. The place that AI generative content becomes useful is the metaverse.
That's powerful enough, because I think one of the things that brought me to that is the digital citizens and the digital agents. I think it's important for people to start to think about it in that context. So concerning the metaverse, right, being so much more powerful than the virtual worlds, right? Because we used to think a metaverse was just virtual land and a plot, but I think it's a lot more about the digital asset engagement. So a community, one of the things is that you have, how many digital asset collections do you guys have currently in Futureverse?
You want to go,
Over
Shara?
20?
Sure.
Over
Yeah.
20?
Yeah. Absolutely. Hi.
Like 20 plus.
Yeah, I think there's more than 500,000 totally unique digital avatar assets out there now within the Futureverse ecosystem. And so
when I connect onto the Futureverse platform and I get my pass, And then
Yeah.
it directs me to these like 3 next steps. And one of them is obviously you know, grab one of your digital assets. You can grab a thingies, you can grab a fluff, you know, and then there are other ones. You have these guns. You just, you know, these
the ray
you know,
guns.
the ray guns.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so you can do these things and you build a score. Talk to me a little bit about the interactiveness with the community for those that aren't techie, but that want to get involved with Futureverse. What does that look like for the general person coming in that has their MetaMask wallet, that knows the simplicity of just being able to connect their wallet to the site and going through Twitter to make sure that you have the correct link and that you're going through verified? Tell me a little bit about that experience from a user standpoint, base knowledge.
Yeah, I think like one of the things we really thought hard about and built technology around was this idea of onboarding, because you think about Web3 as a whole, it's a very exciting category of technology. It's a very important thing to our development as a digital society, but almost no one uses it directly. And you know, if you look at the global market in crypto, there is something like 300 million-ish people who have touched or held crypto. Less than 5% of those are like directly interacting with blockchain applications. They're like holding things on exchanges. And so if you take that even further, like those who are engaging in the content economy within Web3, there's like another, you know, 5% of that. And so the numbers are staggeringly low for a segment of users who are risk tolerant and early adopters. And the reason for that is user experience is shit. And so what we really tried to do with Futureverse is to solve those problems around usability. A lot of people talk about scalability, and our crypto space is obsessed with speed and performance of the blockchain when it comes to scalability. But that's actually a solved problem and a relatively simple problem to solve compared to the scalability of making it simple for users. Simple is a harder problem to solve than speed. And so what we've tried to do in the Futureverse is design those user flows so that anyone, your grandma, can come in and start to participate in Web3 in a way that feels natural to them and isn't confrontational, and they don't even have to think about things like gas or what a private key is or what a wallet is. Like, don't even use that language. Like, use an ontology that is non-confrontational and doesn't feel techie when you go out and do these things. So FuturePass is like a good example of that. You can come into FuturePass if you're a crypto native, and it's a really simple journey. You've got an existing MetaMask account. A lot of people do that. You can create your FuturePass. If you don't have any of that and you're coming into one of the applications in our ecosystem or one of the connected applications that developers are building, you can just come in with an email address or soon a social account or a phone number and start your journey that way. On-chain, using the smart wallet technology in a really simple, non-confronting way that allows us to expand beyond this very myopic group of users that are in the Web3 space from a user perspective.
And we're going to go into some screen shares to talk a little bit about that. And so you guys will be able to give some visuals and speak to that shortly. So Futureverse has secured a significant milestone in a Series A funding with $54 million. How does the company intend to utilize these funds to foster the growth of the overall Futureverse ecosystem, and particularly in the realms of research and development and the advancement of the Root network, which is your blockchain centered on gaming? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, go Shah.
All right, how we're going to use it. So the focus let me set the stage. We have 250 employees. So when it comes to what we're building and how expansive it is of what we're building, we have the underlying technology of the Root network, which has 15 protocols underneath it: comms, AI, UX, all of the things that we mentioned and that are deep within layer 1, layer 2, all the components that make up the Root network. Then on the other side, we have the Futureverse platform, which encompasses some of the things Aaron just mentioned. FuturePass has components and tools for developers like Dot, which allows us to create infinite character generation to allow for assets to be created at scale, which we know is a really big problem. We can't exist in the environment that we all kind of entered the space with, where we can create a 10,000 character or art piece collection and then we're stuck there. That doesn't allow us to scale to the masses. We have to be able to generate characters infinitely. And so we're looking at the Futureverse platform as a component, which obviously requires significant development, productization, evolution of features. And then we have the root network underneath, and that doesn't take into account all of the products, apps, games, and experiences we're developing to prove out all of that technology. So it's a big team, and it's a very ambitious group, and a lot of what we will roll out over the next year will showcase how we anticipate our technology and how we aim to show how it will go out into the world and how developers can come build with us. One thing that you guys mentioned when Aaron was giving his definition of the metaverse that I think is really important that I wanted to add on here, and I think this is really important from a positioning and understanding what Futureverse is that we like to say that we're not building the future, you are. And I think what we mean when we say that, which is really important, is we can't build the metaverse alone. That would be like saying we could build the internet alone. We can't do that. And so the only way that the metaverse as a whole can build with the speed that our communities and everyone out in the world wants it to accelerate and needs it to accelerate, because frankly, the underlying technology gives a lot of incredible power and agency back to the individual, which is really why we're here. Our ethos and our mission, and the reason Aaron and I came together is because we believe in changing the world for the better. We're just going to do it through technology. But when we think about how we're going to do it, even 250 people isn't enough. And so to tie a bit onto what Aaron was saying about our AI creator tools, we need to empower all of the humans in the world to build the metaverse with us. And the only way to do that is to give them the ability to envision things in their imagination and in their minds that they want to see in reality, and be able to type in a prompt how they want that to unfold, whether it be the creation of a character, then that character being animated, whether it be an environment that they're able to spin up just by typing that environment and then seeing it in 3D, and then having those characters jump from one world to another and have their assets, whether it be digital collectibles or financial assets, come along with them. So in real time, they can exchange between one world and another. That's the pathway to building the metaverse. It's not something we can do alone. So I would say that the funding we raised is to start that off, to be able to finish a lot of the building blocks that put the Futureverse together. And we assembled 11 companies, which was insane and ambitious and really, really difficult. And what we ended up doing is bringing together a group of people who are just visionaries in how they're going to change the landscape with intricate areas that they touch, but coming together to build truly the future of the internet. And that takes some financing and a lot of belief and a lot of focus and a lot of drive. And we're really, really grateful and proud of this team, because what we'll go on to do will really show the vision of what we set out to do at the beginning.
And I think the internet needs to grow up. I completely agree with that statement from Aaron. And I think more importantly, I was thinking about the next 5 to 10 years. I was going to ask you, what does it look like? But I think you kind of gave an overall picture of what it can look like, but we all build together. And you've got 250 employees. That funding, a big portion of that is dedicated to making sure that you have a healthy employment group. And an ecosystem that is, has high level of technology, that you also have people in sales and marketing, the ones that are doing that. I mean, you guys come out into a podcast at some point, during the bull market, we were talking about this, companies and groups that were doing big projects. If you didn't have a certain social relevance, you weren't going to get seen. And now more and more as we move forward, we're seeing that more people are coming out, and as you said before, to your point, Aaron, it's when people think it's not cool, or when as Ralph was talking about how people are kind of like, I'm done with the metaverse, or I'm done with NFTs. They're not seeing the bigger game at play, and what you guys are doing is developing and maturing the overall internet. And I think it's really important. And as kind of talk about the lore, I always hear about lore and storytelling. And I think, well, that's really cool. I think it's sort of like sizzle without the steak. I don't mind you selling me on it, but I at least want to know that what we're getting for that, that there's tangible value. And I also feel that, especially in a time of maybe financial uncertainty within our government, or concern about the dollar, that I think a lot of people are running towards Bitcoin and Ethereum and certain digital assets, because the token holders are in essence, they're shareholders in an organization. They have some say, they have some voice, and I think that's really, really important. A thought on the following, which a powerful statement from Ripple Labs president was Monica Long. She said, despite recent skepticism and weakening hype over the metaverse concept, she expressed belief in Futureverse's vision and its potential to contribute to the foundational infrastructure layer of the open metaverse. That's a big statement. She said, I think from my end, I think she's 1,000% correct based on, our first 20 minutes into our podcast, feeling like who are the leaders of the metaverse, and I think you guys are it. What would you add on to Monica Long's statement? Is there anything that you would add to that?
I mean, I think first of all, go ahead, Shah, you go.
I was just going to add that a big part of what encompasses building the open metaverse and making an impact with it is doing things the right way. And I think that one of the areas that everyone will see us continue to evolve and speak on in relation to AI is, and AI is obviously, we all know, in so many different facets, it touches so many different tricky, touchy areas right now, especially when it comes to content and media and IP and talent and music and all of the things that we know that AI will significantly change. And I think there is one component of what we're doing, which is building the technology of the future. And then there is another version where we are setting up how we will do it right and how we will respect copyrights and talent and likeness and the people that have created the past and the historical versions of entertainment and IP and content that we've all grown up loving, because this is absolutely an evolution of the content that all made us the dreamers that we are. And I think that's another really important component of what we're doing out here. It's not just building the technology, it's setting the standards for how we believe it should be done.
Right, and community cohesiveness is incredibly important. MetaMat Trades, my co-host, I didn't want to forget about you. You're here. You have a very relevant and voice on this podcast. I'm curious as to any questions that you might have for our group here today.
Yeah, I've been actually looking at the chat. We had a crowded crew here in both Twitter Spaces and YouTube. I've been actually writing down some of the questions that they've been asking for the. At the end, I'll be asking some of those for the rapid fire questions, some of the chat questions. But there's one that really stuck out to me. I believe it was OneDrop. They're talking about how ChatGPT and just other competitors are, trying to get into that same space. They're wondering what you're going to be doing as far as the competition goes and how to kind of stay a step above the competition. I know you have 250 employees, so you don't have to worry about, having, I guess a lot of people struggle as far as that goes in Web3, having, 10 employees or this, that, whatever, as one guy in the basement. But you guys are clearly a legitimate company. So I'm curious what you're going to be doing as far as the competition goes and just staying ahead.
I think the first thing, and it kind of harks back to what I'd add to what Monica had said, is openness always wins in the end on the internet. Like, the internet thrives on openness, and people don't kind of necessarily see that because we see these big tech companies, but it wouldn't, coming from a networking background, we wouldn't have the internet we have today without TCP/IP as an open standard that everyone can use and adopt. We wouldn't have the internet we have today if we didn't have Linux, because pretty much the whole world runs on Linux. And so, and when it comes to protocols, and the things that power the underlying economy of the internet, openness wins. So that's one thing that we're relatively different to the other big tech companies that are approaching this space. They're generally being more closed in the way they approach the monetization and the development of these things. I think the second thing is one of the I guess misnomers out there is that there's this AI that can do all of these things. Actually, to make a metaverse experience like the ones we're talking about takes quite a few different AIs that do specific things. And one of the reasons we brought the Futureverse together was because we felt that the best user experience would come from having tightly integrated things in that user journey. And so being able to build tools and protocols that are designed to interoperate with each other from the outset, I think gives us an advantage in that user experience domain, which will ultimately drive more adoption. And so having a really strong vision that started not in the AI hype, yesterday, but 5 years ago, about how these things come together to create that overall user experience, I think is a thing that we have as an advantage. On top of that, we believe we actually have an advantage in multiple domains in terms of generative AI. Our music model performs better than anyone out there right now, higher quality music on lower training cycles, with more features in terms of the way you can interact with it. Our 3D stuff is further ahead than anyone else's that we've seen out there. So we have really great researchers in the team that are leaders in their field. We're about to publish some papers on both those aspects, as well as a few other things we've been cooking. We've been working really hard for years now on scaling this stuff. You might see lots of people out there showing demos of like some API to ChatGPT that lets a character talk inside a video game. Super. That doesn't actually make for a great gaming experience, and it doesn't scale to game economics, like free to play on mobile, for example. We've done a lot of the hard work. We have more than 5 patents now, expansive patents in the space of making AI scalable inside metaverse environments and being able to spin up and train agents in a really cost-effective way. I showed a video on my Twitter yesterday of our one of our AI training methods, versus Unity's training methods. And so I think we get a little bit of advantage because we're, a small Kiwi team relative to some of these bigger guys on the other side of the world. We can think a little bit differently. We can be a bit more nimble in the way that we approach them. We're taking a very vertically integrated approach to how we build these tools. But ultimately, like, competition doesn't scare us, because what we're here to do is drive the internet forward. And even if stuff that we create and put out there spurns someone else's innovation and that leads to a better world for us all, we still win.
I was looking at your link tree, and if Tony, I can do a quick screen share. I'm always wondering, how do we onboard more people? And I think part of it is, in this space where we don't have the FOMO, the fear of missing out, because our market is slower, and it gives people a chance to really think, as you say, plot, plan, strategize, and implement. I thought that this might be a great way to talk about how to come into Futureverse and how you can start to learn. So Future Pass, Future Score, and Future Score quests, and Futureverse website. Those are just talk about those 4, because obviously this page goes way down into all the things that are going on in your entire ecosystem. But I want to keep it simple for those that are viewing in, and also short clip content.
Yeah, Future Pass is your passport to the open metaverse. So it's a way that we allow users across chains to connect their identity, the data about themselves, the collectibles they own, and put that in a really presentable way for applications to interact with. Like, one of the big misnomers out there is that NFTs solve interoperability for metaverse applications. In a sense, they kind of make it worse, because NFTs have great standards on token interoperability. So an ERC can interact with 721 can interact with smart contracts on chain. It can interact with ERC20 tokens on chain. All of those token interoperability standards are really strong. The data and content interoperability standards are really weak. There isn't a standard way to categorize data inside an NFT that makes it easy for applications to jump into. So Future Pass does that work.
And tell me a little bit about the score, because we'll move through these just really quick. Tell us a little bit about Future Score, so we can keep these moving so that people can feel.
Yeah, so Future Score is like a loyalty system within the Futureverse. It allows our community to come in and help us test new things and get a score for the collectibles they hold within the ecosystem. And the higher your score is, the higher your rewards are in the Root Network token game.
Okay, this is good. And then Future Score quests, obviously people can go on simple missions. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do was to introduce a new way for people to engage with distribution of tokens from the network. And so quests allow us to organize the community around challenges that they can go out and do to help grow the community, help test new things that we build, help to decentralize the network. All the things you want to happen to grow the Futureverse and Root Network happen as quests for our community to participate in, and then they get rewards based on how high their score is.
And if applicable, link wallets, Futureverse collectibles on the page so you can earn even more score. Click generative button. One of the things that I like, you can come off that screen share, Tony. And so I would invite people to go to the link tree. We've actually pinned it on the Twitter Spaces for those that are not in the Futureverse community. Highly recommend it. But I like the fact of you hold these digital assets for a long period of time, right? Because we want holders. We want investors to stay. We don't want to play the flipping game. This is about building a strong metaverse. It's about gaming applications. And as you said, I think it's the chicken and egg problem, right? Is that Web3 is sparse because you've got applications that are not able to keep up or handle with the platforms. And so when you're connecting an application to a platform, you're met with all of these challenges. I can't think about how hard it was for me at the very beginning to try to understand the simplicity. And I love MetaMask, but how hard it was for me to understand all these different blockchains and what network you were on. And if you send it to the wrong one, your stuff is gone. And I love the fact that you also said with Futureverse that you can come in with as simple as an email address. And so there is a different way for people to enter in, which I think is something that I want us to promote to more Web2 normies, because I want them to take on the Web3, because at some point, we're not going to call it Web3. It's just a new iteration of the internet.
It's just the internet.
Evolves and grows up. So we did talk a little bit about Future Score. One of the things I do want to discuss with you is, how do content funnels work? And will they be partly responsible for bringing users into the Futureverse ecosystem?
I can start that and then hand it back to Aaron, because I was going to say something on this exact topic, which is that it's good to remember that Futureverse is a technology company. So we're not intending for the Futureverse name to be all over billboards and for people to know us first and foremost. Developers will know us because they'll build using our platform and utilizing the Root network. The content funnels you just brought up are the exact way that a mainstream consumer will come in and utilize all of our tools. We talk a lot about, and our community knows that this is what we say on repeat, is that our vision is to make the technology invisible. So you shouldn't even know that you're using a future pass necessarily. Our community knows, and that's why we're incentivizing them through Future Score and quests, because we are rewarding them for just what you said, their long-term holding and participation and support within the ecosystem and for everything that will go on to build. But when this gets integrated into big IP experiences, which we will roll out over the next, continue to roll out beginning very soon with big name IP across many different verticals, the future pass will be invisible in that. It will be white labeled. And so that a consumer can come in, simply sign up with their email address and have all of the features that Aaron walked us through beautifully of how seamless it can make your journey through the metaverse. So those big content funnels are our way to actually showcase our technology, but make it so that consumers can do all of the things that they want to do and not be encumbered by the things that we all came up together knowing are the really complicated, uncomfortable, almost impossible UX to navigate within the early days of Web3. At least we saw it then. So that's our goal when you talk about content funnels, is those experiences will be about the IP and the brands. It won't be about all of the intricacies of our technology.
And by the way, one of the most engaged Discord channels I have ever been in, and I'm not a big fan of Discord, I just want to throw that out there, is none other.
We got a solution to that too, by the way. So keep your ears pinned.
Ooh,
I will.
Ralpha.
I will. I will. And by the way, I heard a party bear laugh in the background, so I want to bring Ralph up for a second. Is Ralph here still? I heard
Yeah, I'm still here.
There he is. I knew I heard the laugh. All right. Why did you become a party bear? What got you so excited about Futureverse? Why are you in it? The all-knowing Ralph Quintero from the Daily Ralpha.
Because I invest in builders and people first, right? I've always said that, and I've always admired what this team is building. And I also have a fascination with music. That's the industry that I've spent the bulk of my life in. So for me, it was the perfect marriage between Web3, NFTs, music, and all of this amazing tech that was being built. So that's why I came into the ecosystem and why I've stuck around and will continue to stick around. I mean, everything we've heard here today is absolutely fascinating. And I can't wait to see where it goes and how other, IP properties come into play. And I mean, there's just so much that we can talk about. Like the possibilities are infinite. And actually, one of the questions that I had for both Aaron and Shara is, you're building big things, like really, really big things. You're not like tackling like little problems. Like you didn't build out a 10,000 PFP collection, right? Like you're building like this. Your vision is massive. Other than financing, right? We talked about the importance of having the right funding to be able to do this kind of stuff. What are some of the biggest, or what is the biggest challenge that you've run into up to this point? And like, what have you learned from it?
I think, you're putting aside the fact that it was fairly challenging to bring 11 companies together and growing now into creating the Futureverse. The challenges we have been trying to cut through the narrative in the space. I think that's the biggest thing for all of us, and to move the conversation on from NFTs to what you can do with this technology. And I think one of the things that crypto in general has done badly is kind of overly focus on, technical standards and jargon and financialization at the expense of demonstrating the real valuable use cases to change the way that the internet works. And in a certain aspect, we've created kind of a rod for our own back with that, because you go out there and you talk about these technologies to people in the normal world or in the gaming world, and don't talk about blockchain and don't talk about NFTs. And like, that's really exciting. I wish I could do those things. The minute you introduce those concepts as blockchain technology or crypto technology, they like have all this baggage of all of the shit that goes with it. So that's the thing we're trying to cut through. And I think, like, to build on Shara's last point in the question that was asked, we've got like 5 clear content funnels that we build, that we're building experiences for that can interact with each other to really show for the first time the open metaverse in action. And in order to reach these new audiences, we've gone and got the world's biggest brands in each of those categories to showcase how this technology can work and how those experiences can interact. And we've done it, and like Shara said, the way we're rolling those things out is in a way that they don't necessarily know or understand that Web3 is behind it. And that's exactly the way the space needs to grow. The more we keep putting the technology in people's faces, the more they'll reject it. Imagine if you were to go and download networks and Netflix, and before you could do anything, you had to go and figure out who was the cloud service provider for Netflix, because that's what making people think blockchains is about. It's literally the same as pushing a user when they're signing up to Netflix to go and figure out who the cloud service provider is. Not only figure that out, go and buy some credits from that cloud service provider. And not only buy them from the cloud service provider, sign up to a third-party service who wants to KYC you in order to buy those credits before you can use Netflix. That's what the Web3 experience is today. And so the more we can bury the technology in the jargon and just show people cool things, link to brands and content they already know and love, the better the space is going to be.
You mean you don't buy AWS credits every time you watch like a show
Exactly.
on Netflix? I mean, I do that all the time.
Exactly.
By the
Yeah.
way,
And by the way, you do. It's just that the developer takes that on board, and that's one of the cool things about the Root network. We've designed it to work the same way.
And you brought up the fact of, sorry, Craig.
You're good. Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, one of the brilliant things that I've seen from my perspective is like you've lined up all of these incredible partnerships, right? You guys have worked with FIFA, and I'm sure that there's a whole slew of incredible partnerships lined up. I think that's the way that you continue to onboard people, right? They don't care. They don't care if it's Web 2, Web 1, Web 17. They just want the experience.
They just want a cool experience. They want to be able to do something they couldn't want to do before. They want it to be magic. And so focus on the fun, focus on the things that are uniquely different that you can do now that you couldn't do before. And then slowly breadcrumb those users up the stack of understanding why it's important that we change the direction of the internet. Don't force it in their face. Calling NFTs was like the dumbest mistake we could have ever done. It's like going out and like marketing your business based on the fact that you use PDF as a standard to like transmit documents. It's just really stupid.
I agree. Buy my PDF. It goes back. Yeah. I mean, we use the MP3 example all the time, right? Like MP3 WAV files, they went by the wayside. And at one point, like we had the same exact issue in the music space, right? Where we had MP3 players, we had WAV players, we had like all of these different standard players, different file types, and the consumer didn't care. The consumer just wanted to have their music in one place and listen to it. And I'm glad we got there. And I think we'll get there. And with the work that you guys are doing, we'll definitely get there. But I think we need more companies thinking the way that you guys think.
The open secret is that almost every big company in the world, despite what they're saying publicly, is working on their strategy here. I've lost count of the number of Fortune 500s that we're having conversations with that actively want to do something real. And you mentioned earlier, the bear market and the hype's gone and all that kind of stuff. Like our view is that's fucking awesome because that's when the real work starts, and that's the work we're doing.
I was thinking that when you hold your cell phone, how automaton, right? You get into a mode, you press go, you press stop, you press on, you press off. And that's how easy, what we're doing right now. I was never a techie person. And to learn each of the applications or to go on and understand these nuances, even now, it's still a challenge. Or I feel like if I think with the on and off automaton mindset, I'm going to make a big error and I could lose something. And that's the reality that we're based in right now. And so it's really cool to see how you're going to come from a Web 2 standpoint, but you're also coming in Web 3. And it was very easy to hook my MetaMask wallet up. But Aaron, you said something I thought was really powerful. Vertically integrated media company. And that's how you described, Futureverse. And I think we keep saying it again. And as Cher had said, it's a tech company. That's what it is. And you're going to be known or well known to the developers, and you're going to be the powering behind. If you think about it, you're going to be the powering behind the overall infrastructure or the technology. It's not the forefront. It doesn't have to be the brand name. It's going to be the brand name.
We're Intel inside. That's where we'd love to.
I'm looking for Intel. I was trying to pull it up, looking at a computer. It's all Intel in there. I thought that was great. What challenges with interoperability or what measures can be taken to address them effectively? I mean, we think about Polkadot and some of the other cryptos that it's very seamless. Do you think that interoperability is a big challenge or that's on your plate? And if so, what would that be concerning interoperability?
Yeah, I think there are two kinds of interoperability. Like you mentioned there, chain interoperability. We're in kind of an interesting phase in the Web3 protocol space. We're still in the standards wars space, which I grew up in my early career in telecommunications, and there were lots of different protocols when I first started that you had to try and get to work together through things like muxes and routers. Like Cisco was born out of this lack of interoperability as a company, and so we're kind of in that phase now where it's a bit clunky. We've tried to think about it a little bit differently with Futureverse, and the Future Pass can act as an interoperability layer that isn't necessarily protocol to protocol like a chain integration would be. And not saying that bridges and stuff aren't important or protocol interoperability isn't important. It is. It's just not a solved problem yet. And there are lots of risks in the process of going through those current solutions. And so FuturePass tries to address that by minimizing, not removing, but minimizing the number of times you have to do a protocol to protocol interoperability to get interoperability at the application layer, which is where it matters. And so we're working on both problems, solving for better atomic interoperability on the chain layer and, reducing the risk around interoperability at the application layer. It's a really important thing. And then the second thing you have is the asset interoperability. You think of like the meme of the metaverse about, taking my avatar and jumping from this world to that world to that world. Like it literally doesn't happen. For all the hype and billions of dollars spent in NFTs and in the metaverse in general over the last few years, there is no good example of that working anywhere because asset interoperability is really hard. And different engines and different devices and different clients and different types of applications support different kinds of assets, and there's a lot of complexity behind that. And I think the thing that we've been doing is trying to create standardized pipelines that help spit out different kinds of assets that are compatible across multiple things. Pair that with our asset register, which makes the metadata available to applications to know what those things are in a standardized way to create a layer of interoperability for assets and content within the metaverse.
I was thinking about how you just, how people come in, right? And they engage overall in the ecosystem, and part of the relationships that are built in social correlation are, when I look at Twitter and Discord, how the community's connecting with one another, the questions that they're asking. There are nuanced technology questions based on protecting assets. Should I move all my assets over to one wallet? Should it be spread out? Can I connect multiple wallets? All the way to just some fun gifts and just some general GMs or, hey, this is the latest project that's going on. But I think you raise a lot of really good points. So we've expanded a lot, and maybe I want to go a little bit more into applications, right? So when I think about, on your phone, you go into the App Store. There's millions of apps, and a lot of them really, really suck. So the question is, Futureverse is going to be kind of powering behind somebody who wants to create an app, and they're going to utilize your technology, and they're going to be able to put out something successful. And the end user doesn't need to become smarter. We've made these phones that are so complicated and so complex with its technology. We've made it so user face friendly for people that most anybody in the world puts a phone in their hand, and unless they locked out of their password or their phone completely resets or something like that, they're okay. They're able to hop from one app to the next. Do we look to see Web3 integration, not from a money standpoint, not when Lambo, but do we look to see it from a standpoint of people coming into this space and utilizing the amazing technology that's blockchain-based infrastructure? Do we look to see that over the next 5 years? What do you both think?
I mean, if our mission's successful, we'll make a big dent in that goal. And like Shara said at the beginning, it's not something we can do alone. What we want to do is make the tools that make it easier for everyone else to go on that journey and build something meaningful together. But if we're not successful at, significantly improving the number of people that are onboarding directly to Web3 and using applications powered by this technology, then we're not doing our jobs. I think we're off to a good start. You mentioned FIFA earlier. We just clocked over 100,000 downloads in the last day or so. We're adding thousands of people a day to that application. I bet you 99% of them have no idea that there's a blockchain behind it. And that's
I mean,
exactly the way we like it.
I was just coming to FIFA, and I said the game launched with FIFA, the Women's World Cup, where users coach a team of automated players in an immense immersive world without being explicitly aware of the underlying technologies being used and it not being complicated to work with. So that right now is ongoing, where people can download the app within Futureverse. And they can go and get the digital asset that connects to that, and they can start to play in the game. Is that correct?
Yeah, go to the Android App Store or iOS App Store, download and install and play that just like you would any other application. And in that process, you will be creating a Web3 wallet, a FuturePass account, interacting with an AI agent that you can later claim and own on-chain. And so all of those things that are like confrontational, hard things for people to get their head around, we've made fun. The third leg of our strategy, Shara mentioned the first leg, which is make the technology invisible and make it feel like magic. The third leg is teach the world about Web3 through play and learn. And so if we can onboard people through fun, engaging experiences and give them the knowledge to understand what's going on under the hood through play, then we're going to go a long way to achieving that goal.
So, and by the way, congratulations. Hold on one second, and I'm going to come right to you, Ralph. The Next Legends fantasy boxing game using NFTs, which actually got support from Muhammad Ali's estate. So it's pretty powerful. And go ahead, Ralph.
No, I was just going to lean heavily into like these play applications, right? Going back to something that's near and dear to my heart, which is music. And I think, Shara, you've got background in the music industry as well. You guys have done stuff with Angel Baby. What we're seeing, or at least I'm seeing, is music is a huge motivator for people to come into the space. I've seen a lot of artists do some super interesting stuff. Are you guys working on additional tool sets for musicians, for artists? Can you share anything with regards to that? Is there going to be maybe on-ramps for new artists, incubators, that kind of stuff?
It's coming sooner than ever this time, because we're asked about this literally last night. I was in the Discord commenting on it because my background is, of course, in music, and Aaron and I have been working so hard for the last 18 months putting together what we're about to come out with on the music AI side. And additionally, on the music side across Futureverse. I think what's really interesting, and what I will say about music in the Web3 space, is that this idea of music NFTs and just an NFT that holds music is just not what is going to happen in the space. We're not going to be buying and trading one-on-one songs. That is not what is going to begin the evolution of where this technology can take the music industry and can benefit artists and creators and can help the overall label system and a lot of the rights and payments problems that we're having in the space. So the short answer is we've been working incredibly, incredibly hard, and we believe that what we're going to bring to market, and we're going to start releasing bits and pieces of that very, very soon, people will really understand what our perspective is for what our technology can bring to the music industry that can actually help transform it for the better. Because the simple version of let's put a concert in Fortnite, or let's have an avatar singing commercial music, that's not interesting to us. It's interesting to us to change the revenue streams and the opportunities for everyone in the industry as a whole. And so that's the direction we're headed.
And also maybe
I'm sitting here like now,
don't say anything.
Reading
Alpha.
a paper which our research team put together just yesterday and will be releasing shortly, which shows how deep we're going into the music space, and I think it would be unfair to say that we weren't the leading Web3 team building at the intersection between the metaverse and AI, and that'll become very apparent very soon.
There's no doubt that is the case. I did want to hit you guys with two more questions. Shara, I wanted to ask you a question I think was really important. When you're telling a story and you guys are both getting investors, you got people to invest in what your idea, and you came together and You created this storyline. You've done many presentations. What's your advice for people who are out there, whether it's content creating, whether it's building their own ecosystem, to actually not only get people to invest in them, but to also back their ideas and become what I call, raving fans?
I think that's a really big question, and it's really interesting, because I think what I will say about it, and maybe the best way to answer it, is one of the things that make Aaron and I really similar in a lot of ways, and I think a really special team, is that we wholeheartedly believe everything that we say, and we can back it up with everything that we've built, and we can showcase it technically, visually, narratively, in written copy, in decks. We can showcase what we see and what we believe is going to come, and we frankly just believe it with such utter conviction that we're going to make it happen. And so I think that when it comes to entrepreneurs, and there's something that we're bringing out this week that will really double down on what I'm saying, and it is really the true embodiment of how Aaron and I are entrepreneurs and how we want to mentor future entrepreneurs and help others in the space have the funding and the opportunities that we have created for ourselves to have, is find the people who have this just like almost, you can't even articulate how much they believe in what they're doing. And that's infectious. And investors will see that and they will get on board, and then you'll continue to show them the traction you have, and you'll relentlessly showcase what you can do. And that will always find you the right investor, the right partners, because people want to be a part of that energy and that magic and that passion. And it really is about that. Like, you can't, like, I don't think either Aaron or Ryan, he can speak for himself too, would say that it's about how you lay a graph out in a deck, or of your 12 slides, if you're missing one, will it send you the wrong direction? It's that the story that you tell can't be a fake story. It can't be a Hollywood narrative. It has to be authentically you. And when you do that, you will find exactly who you need to find to take your idea or your project to the next level. And we do that on a daily basis.
And by the way, it's to the point of when I was away on vacation and I listened to you speak, that is exactly the feeling that I had, is that I was on board to want to know more and learn about both of you this evening on tonight's episode, which has been an incredible honor for me. And the fact that you could take 11 metaverse companies and put them all into the Futureverse, the future is very bright, and I'm really excited for that. And I do want to finish off on Meta Matt's rapid fire questions, and then we'll close it out from there, Matt.
Yeah, so actually, my first question is from the chat. It's from Daniel Harbs. Actually, there's a bunch of people asking. Atari God is also asking about your nails. I'm going to put it up right there on the screen. What is the alpha behind the nails? Everyone is wondering. Everyone wants to know, needs to know.
I just described the alpha. So I say that when the alpha drops on Thursday, it will become clear based on this interview what I was alluding to with what's on my nail.
I love it. I know, like, Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, huge of the metaverse, big players in the metaverse. I'm just curious.
The biggest alpha in Web3 is whatever Shara's nails are doing.
Right. I'm wondering who y'all would pick in the boxing match that everyone's trying to make happen. Who knows is going to actually happen, or whatever kind of jiu-jitsu match, whatever it is, Elon or the metaverse king Zuckerberg.
Oh, we shouldn't
My
say
money's
that.
on Elon.
Okay, well, I'm not going to pick a side because of maybe some other things.
Alpha.
Take that as we always say. That's some alpha right there, possibly. Yeah. Bill Green was asking about your favorite, the favorite merch. I know right now you're wearing a Futureverse shirt. Bill was asking, anyone see the FV shirt Aaron is wearing, and when FV flat bill hat? Can we expect a flat bill hat coming in the future? And also, what's your favorite merch that y'all have?
Well, we're about to come out with the merch, and by about, don't be asking every single day, but it's coming. We're working on it.
And so, definitely a flat bill hat, because that's all I wear.
There you go.
That will be the only hat, probably, because that's Aaron's signature
hat. I love it. So Stream of Consciousness in the chat was asking, what are each of your favorite collections in the ecosystem and why, besides, of course, your own?
Oh, that's hard. I would have to say Assimilated All-Stars would be my favorite now, because I gave my my OG fluff up for charity, so I don't have my OG anymore. My next on the list would be Assimilated All-Stars.
Nice.
Mine is definitely the ASM Brains. I think that will surprise no one because it's my profile photo, but it's also the reason that we're all here. If I didn't find ASM, Aaron and I would have never even met. So and also what we're what we're going to do with the brains and the ASM protocol is going to be just unimaginable for impact to this space. So, and we have a lot coming with it, and that is an incredibly special asset.
Awesome. Alan Min in the chat was asking about all the private equity taken in. We know that, there's the big news of the private equity funding. What does the corporate governance look like to manage, and how does the governance change when it goes from like a Web3 project to a multi-million-dollar funded company? I'm curious. Like, was there like an overnight, like, oh gosh, like now we have to be completely different, or is it kind of like a gradual change?
I mean, we've always tried to. I'm an investor. Shah is an investor. We understand how governance works. We're on boards across our own ventures and ventures that we've been invited to be a part of that we haven't invested in. So governance as a process isn't new to us. We've been able to assemble an absolutely outstanding board for Futureverse. We have Monica, as president of Ripples on our board. We have Ken Cron, who got World of Warcraft to the world, on our board. We have John Joyce, who was managing partner at Silver Lake and global CFO of IBM on our board. We have Tad Smith, who was CEO of Sotheby's on our board. We've got an absolutely incredible board. We've got, executives from Google and Palantir. We have an awesome team that are there supporting us, backing us, and challenging us to do better and to make this company the great thing that they saw when they invested in it. We don't have governance for governance sake. It's there for constructive purposes, and it is a supportive board.
Right. And honestly, the questions in the chat have been awesome so far. The Schiller and Atari God are kind of both wondering the same thing. Atari God was saying, will Root be the only token earned through Quest in the future, or will XRP, because I know you just mentioned the XRP, on the team, will that be implemented in the future, or is that maybe some alpha that there's a maybe, or?
Yeah. The Future Score and the Future Quest program is designed to extend beyond just the current state. And if you think about it as a way to recruit more communities into the Root network and into the Futureverse ecosystem, you can definitely see layers of rewards playing out across different kinds of tokens or collectibles. Bringing more communities into Future Score and Future Quest is a deliberate design, and even enabling developers to build Future Quest and Future Score into their own applications and into their own community building. If you want to do something like we're doing with Future Score, come and talk to us, because we can help you enable that kind of functionality for your communities too.
Awesome. And speaking of community, I know incentivization when it comes to just like NFTs, Web3 in general, it's always been just a really hard topic that a lot of projects have been struggling with. With staking, it was a big thing in the bull market. Now there's a lot of projects that's not working out for them anymore. They're going back on it. MetaBlocks in the chat was saying the Futureverse incentivizes those that support the project to grow, not extract negative values like Blur did to projects. This another member in the chat, Cerebom, says this is the anti-Blur experience. I'm just wondering like how you decided on the process of giving your holders a reason to be a holder without making it just too much like a lot of projects did.
I think the core to that is what Shara said earlier, which is when we look at this, we're trying to be authentic and do the right thing, and Future Score was about showing our community now, the ones that are with us, that have been there for a while, and those who join us and persist and help us grow in the future, that they matter, and that we're doing this with them and for them. And so designing a system that helps us reward those who've been with us on the journey and those who join us and then continue to support us was a no-brainer for us in terms of coming up with that. It also has some nifty little side effects about how the root token gets out to the community and to the wider market without like crossing some boundaries that you shouldn't cross when it comes to regulations and stuff like that. But as a system that achieves, rewarding the community with real action that grows the network, I think it's unparalleled.
Awesome. I got 3 quick last questions. The first one is from Jetson Thomas in the chat. They're saying goblins are an infinite mint, so they'll die, quote unquote, in the game. Can fluffs and party bears die? Will they have to worry about their bears or fluffs going to the burner wallet or whatever it may be, dying?
Thing is death.
So I think
we can that could be
the true answer to that is actually it's not down to us, because these are user-owned collectibles. And so if someone designs an experience that uses those tokens in a way that includes permanent death, then that can happen, because that's what the metaverse is about. Are we planning to do that? No. Goblins? Yeah, they're going to die. We'll be showing some footage soon of the Gods and Goblins game, and the first kind of, let's call it mini game in that experience where there's a lot of dying.
I had a lot of NFTs go to 0. I haven't had any die yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that works.
Hey, if your NFTs go to 0, that's a great thing for Gods and Goblins, because you get a goblin by burning a shitty rugged NFT. So if you've got collections you want us to add to the list, let us know.
That
is
we recycle trash NFTs into goblins.
Oh man, I hope that your recycling bin is big enough for my wallet. But I have 2 last questions. One more personal, one about the game. I'll go with the game one first. And this is from Atari God. Once again, Atari God. We love all the questions that everyone's been asking. Are the AI characters NFTs, will that ever be a thing in the future? I know I'm always on YouTube, TikTok, and I see this new video games coming out with AI, and then they respond back. Will it ever be a thing where these are just like NFTs on the blockchain with their own AI type thinking?
Yeah, super soon.
I mean,
I think that the easy thing for us to do would have been to jump on the GPT bandwagon and put something out that was one of our avatars that you could interact with, like everyone else has. But doing the easy thing has never been the path we've chosen. And what the team have built in that domain is a far superior experience that scales better, that will give more lifelike interactions for game developers and users inside of those games. So we're excited to show that stuff coming up shortly. It's all kind of linked back to the brains that Shara loves so much.
Are you ever worried about like a Frankenstein type experience, having as creators of AI, all this stuff, and all of a sudden it comes back and everyone's talking, AI is to take over? Are you, as someone who's very involved in AI and the meta, are you worried about that, especially being so heavily involved?
I think you have to be worried. Like I think you're naive if you're not worried about it. When David and I and my other brother Jeffrey were thinking about this space, 4 years ago now, and came up with the altered state machine concept. The whole idea then was that AI was going to be a significant part of society and have the potential for significant impact on society. So we wanted to make a way for users to know more about AI and to have a role in the governance of AI and ownership of the AIs as they become more dominant. And that's the whole purpose of Altered State Machine. And so we've thought about that a lot, and a lot of the work we're trying to do is to put this technology in people's hands. So at the very minimum, they know that it's important to get involved in the governance around this stuff and how regulation and policies shape up around it. And at the other end of the spectrum, have the tools to actually create things that can be owned by communities as opposed to corporations. And so that's kind of a deep thesis for us. On the existential question, I think if, and it's not a matter of if, when there is an AI that is what we would call like truly sentient and capable of malicious intent, it'll be too late, because that thing
because the
will already know the thing will already know that we don't want that to happen. So it will play dumb. And actually, any one of these models out there could be playing dumb. We don't know what goes inside of these black boxes. Like you put stuff in and stuff comes out. No engineers in the world can tell you exactly why that happens. And it's a black box. And so if it was going to happen, it may have already happened, and it'll be too late by the time we realize it. So it's just not worth worrying about, like, on that meta scale. All we can do for now is try and like give tools to people so that if it hasn't happened already, communities are in control of that evolution.
So you're saying it could already be happening for all we know. we just wouldn't know. All right, last question. This is from Bill Green. I know you all had a huge journey. 250 employees are doing some huge things, with AI space, metaverse space. What has been your favorite memory? This is from Bill Green in the chat. What is your favorite memory from this journey thus far, and what are you most excited about for the future, for the community to see?
I'll say my favorite memory because it happened yesterday. It was Aaron and I sitting on a phone call with one of our board members going through a strategy that is really complicated, and then Aaron and I conjured up by bringing a bunch of different pieces together and us talking about whether we should take the easy path or the hard path. And while we entertained the conversation, both of our hearts were in the harder path, because we just knew that that's how you prolifically change something, and that's the right thing. And so we got off the phone and then got on our own call and then proceeded to have multiple calls throughout the night, talking it through and strategizing it through, and ultimately being like, we're insane, let's do it. And that's just, when you have those moments each day, like, we're believers of, it's funny you brought up that Aaron's in the future and I'm in the past. Yeah. What's really interesting is I believe the past is gone. The future will never get here. All we have is today. So our favorite memory should be, what is the most fun, joyful, craziest thing we did today? And that was one from yesterday. So I'll get one from today. It's doing this because you guys are the best. And also, before we jump, I just want to say that it feels like, it's funny to say this because we the industry started only so recently, a couple years ago, but it feels like we all grew up together, because JPEG Morgan was where it started. And it almost feels like we've done so much, all of us, in the last 2 years. It feels like, oh, we were kids then. And we were just it was the beginning. And I'm looking at your background, Craig. I'm like, we got to get a Futureverse thing in there, because I see the crypto is shout out. And I'm like, we got to send you a Futureverse mug.
Would love it. Would love it. Absolutely. And it's funny that some of the best relationships that we have are in our Web3 community, because when everybody on the outside that doesn't know or understand this space, they're like, what are you doing? I don't understand. Why do you have a podcast on this? Why are you so involved? And it's like, that's that connection with people. So it's extremely important. And so thank you. And it's awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Ralph, do you have any last words? Because I do want to do an exit instead of the intro, because I completely flubbed it. I'm honest with myself, but at least the intro. Yeah, you're going to hold on, Tony. I'm doing that exit intro. That was pretty bad before.
Outro?
Any thoughts? Outro.
No, this has been phenomenal. I mean, what an amazing show. I could have a whole separate show just talking about AI and aliens. And maybe we can arrange that.
Let's do it.
It should be AI versus aliens.
There you go. But it was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us and sharing so many amazing stories and kind of this incredibly bright future at a time where our industry kind of feels dark and gloomy and heavy. This is a breath of fresh air, and it just makes me even more excited about what's going on in this space. So thank you so much.
Futureverse is the light of credibility at the end of this tunnel of rugs and aliens. And so on that note, I want to say thanks everyone for tuning into CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews, and just the general things Web3. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. CraigO signing off.